What I got behind me, guys, is I have a all-new Ford Transit Trail high roof. Also, I have behind me a Ford T3 Transit high roof as well, outfitted with a Q-Lift from Quigley 4x4. So I'm going to take you guys through basically what I am showing kind of as a walkthrough of the differences between these two, really showing the cool new features that come with the Transit Trail, but also showing you too, with the wait time and the abilities of the Transit Trail, also what you can do with the Q-Lift and their differences. And so what I want to do is we'll start kind of like talking about the front. So, and you can kind of come a little bit closer here. So if you compare the two fronts, you've got a splash guard slash, it's not a skid plate, but it is a level of an air dam that goes underneath on the front end bumper that kind of gives that extra, I guess, considered air dam, compared to the non-trail, where it's a lot more just basically flat cut back, and then you do have a splash guard underneath. The trail incorporates the two into one, and it allows you the ability of getting a little bit extra airflow into your coolant. And so really from top to bottom, you got a little bit more flashing is what I would probably consider it, but being able to drop it just a little bit lower to the ground that gets you, kind of that smooth transition and flow, unlike that clean cut, high tight of just the standard Transit front bumper. Now this is a non-painted, the same over here, non-painted. And so that's kind of starting low, working our way up. So this is your standard front grille on the Ford Transit Trail. It gives you that Raptor style look. And so Austin, if you want to come over here. So you have 3 amber indicator lights. If you say that, I will turn those on for you. So you get these indicator lights that basically are indicator slash front amber, and to be able to help kind of display that front grille awesome look. And on this guy over here, we put on basically an aftermarket, what would be considered a Raptor grille as well. Has the big imprint of the Ford. This is an aftermarket option. This is not standard. You cannot get this directly from Ford here in the US. And so this is a really cool feature. I think these are awesome for the ability of having, again, kind of that front indicator, that low glow, chasing someone down. If there's high dust, snow, whatever the case might be, these indicators are really nice, knowing who's tailing you and how close they are to you. Standard also on the Transit Trail is the new HID headlights that Ford started offering back in 2020. These are also really cool and new to Ford because they are completely blacked out. And so before there was a chrome inlay, and with going to the new grille with the all black, this is also all black on the inside as well. And so with that black, it's super cool. It basically gives that continued look through the front end. On this side, you can upgrade all Ford Cargos to the same headlight, but this is your standard headlight that you get if you don't upgrade. So it's got your old school lenses and everything that you would typically have on an older model vehicle. Same functionality, the brightness is unbelievably different. I would tell you that, especially if you weren't planning to add any sort of extra ditch lights, bumper lights, lights above on roof racks, I would absolutely pay the money for the HIDs. It is an unbelievable difference. And both units are also set up with Ford factory fog lights. Again, they're great for that ability, running down snow roads, things like that, that helps you get you underneath the fog, obviously how they're called fog lights, and allows you to get you that low pro look. So the front ends, you can see the defined differences. Again, you get those factory amber lights on the trail. You get your 3 across here on the top, and then you get the additional, I wouldn't call it air dam necessarily, but it is that additional flashing that basically wraps around the front end of the vehicle. And so, these are your 2 looks. We'll go ahead and I'll pop the hood on both, and we'll kind of take a look under the hood. Pop this guy here. So the Q-Lift versus the Trail are two different styles of lifting abilities. So for disclaimer, you know, whenever you're up, like lifting a vehicle, doing changes with suspension, your tire size is what gets you additional clearance. It's basically, no matter what you do, your axle is where your tire is. So increasing height of tire, if you have an axle across and not four independents, you still have that clearance issue, and tires are what take care of that. And with the Transit Trail, you get the new upgraded all-terrain tire. You get the Goodyear Wrangler. You go up to an LT 245/75 R16. So you get that little bit bigger tire. It's awesome because it gives you the grip. It gives you what you're looking for. Plus, you get a good-looking factory wheel from Ford, black, and it gives you that ability. The benefit to the Trail rims is their width. So in most rims, you get the offset, you get all the different things that help set your tire in or out of the wheel well, and that's your offset and the changes that they make to the rim. What's cool about how Ford did theirs is it's a very flat front, and this flat front gives you the ability of kind of just a single plane and just a cleaner, in a way, almost a truck look, you know, and that's really cool that it's just a flat face. You know, I'm not gonna say that, you know, it's gonna keep you from catching this, but I'll show you on the other unit with how the all-wheel drives are set up. Most have an extreme offset to where you have a pretty good chunk out here to be able to potentially smack if you ain't got these guys. And so going down the side of the unit, before we go under the hood, you also have really great fender flares that give that body and that ability. So with the offset change of this rim, it also helps set your stance wider, and they brought these out to help protect your paint and everything else. And so it really is an awesome touch, and this is only a Ford Transit Trail thing. This is not something that we can reproduce. It's not something that we can change. It is an awesome thing. Also with the Ford Transit Trail, you do get their steps. I really like them. They're very sturdy. You know, you're able, whenever you step on them, you know, they don't have much flex to them. They are basically a full length on both sides. So, you know, on the other side, it's not just capped at your door. It does continue down. And the other benefit I will say too is it's got enough width so you can actually put your foot on it. So whenever you step on it and you step in and out, you can actually utilize it, and you're not just gonna fall out on your face. And so it's kind of a flaw for a lot of steps, and they did a great job with these. You know, but looking just kind of as a quick note, we're gonna stay out of the inside really on this video, but you can see it's a cargo vehicle on the interior. It's a T350 high roof. This is an Avalanche, so you can kind of see the spray on the interior, but that is what this is. We did not on ours order them with the factory max fan air vent. You know, it's just something that we didn't do. Doesn't mean we can't, but you know, we install ours where we want to keep them consistent. So you do have the body trim front and rear. And so again, kind of keeping note to this and what we talked about with the tire, if we come back around here to your standard cargo, you know, with us, you know, again, this has a Q-Lift on it. So this is a Quigley Q-Lift. And what we did is we added the BF Goodwrench tires, the KO2s, with an Ultra rim. So these are kind of dirty, sorry for that, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where you can see how the offsets are a little bit different with this tire. And so, but this face, you kind of see how this protrudes a little bit stronger than the Trail does, you know? And for some people, they love that, you know, deep dish is the opposite direction, but it does give that differential of depth. You know, I do love a very clean, straight face, and so that's one thing I love about the Trail. But, you know, coming off of this, you are still relatively in line, but they did a great job on the Trail of giving it all that look. But this is something that we can do, you know, through a third-party vendor. The Ultras are great rims. Also, you know, the KO2s, it's really hard to go away from them. You know, but you also have Wild Peaks and some other different, you know, tires that kind of compete with the different brands. And so, you know, unlike the Trail though, you know, you don't have the big molding. You kind of have that standard just transit molding. It's not beefy, it's not big. It doesn't give just that extra level of just aggressiveness. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, you don't get that. But what I will say, being a little bit tighter, it does show off the tire a little bit more. And so it's just a balancing act whenever you look at the sides and the comparables. But the thing now is when we talk about the lift. So this guy is a Q-Lift, and this guy over here is the Transit Trail. So how these two are lifted and how they're different, and I'll be able to show you with some comparisons. The Q-Lift is a differential drop. So what you're doing is underneath the front end, you basically have two CV shafts in the front end going up to a differential. What this unit is the differential is being dropped to get you that extra height. And then at the back of the vehicle, you're doing blocks underneath the rear suspension to be able to drop that axle at the same distance as the front is. So that's how the Q-Lift is getting it. Basically, it's a differential drop. With the Transit Trail, it's similar, but also not the same at the same time. It is a engine drop where you are dropping basically everything under the vehicle, axles, differentials, and motor. You're dropping the whole system, including exhaust, down to bring the chassis up. So it's not really a body lift, you know, and body lifts are disclaimed by a lot of different scenarios, but this is what I would consider a level of an engine drop and everything with it dropping underneath. Now the rear axle, it is still the same thing. It is a block drop to drop that rear axle, but in the front, what I can show you is if you bring me this here, what I'll do is I'll show you. So down here, you have right there, that bracket is basically the bracket that's for your engine mount. Now there is a couple others, but that is where you can see the biggest difference from where my finger is there to up here. So that drop distance is what you're actually getting from the wheel, basically the top of the tire dropping that whole axle, because the differential and everything is dropping with this motor. So that bracket right there that I'm pointing at is dropping that distance. Now, if you keep an eye on that distance drop, what you can also see on this one here is you can see how much tighter that bracket is. So it's really kind of tough to tell, but you can see that this bracket doesn't drop near as far as the bracket on the Trail. So if I kind of go back over to it, you know, you can see here that that bracket that I'm pointing at right there is a much deeper drop. And that is how they're getting the lift with the Transit Trail. The other thing is I'm gonna try to take an angle here where you can kind of see the difference in height there. And then if you come over here, you can notice how much tighter it is. And so this motor is physically sitting higher in the engine compartment versus that guy over there. So if I look at it from this angle, you can see that. And then you see how much higher and tighter it is. So the other thing I'll be able to do is let's crawl under here and I will show you guys a couple other things. Austin, I'm gonna give you this back and then I'll take it back from you. All right. So underneath here, what we did is this unit is set up with Bilstein front struts with rear shocks. So, and that's something that we do is we add extra suspension. Also want to note that we've also added an extra leaf. That's something standard we do for our chassis, mainly because of weight management and a lot of other things coming out of the Ford plant. And so the best thing to do is try to show you a few things. So on this unit here, you'll see right here that you you've got a block above your differential and basically all your housing in the front. So this there, that guy right there, has a block above it. So this here is dropping this whole structure down. What it's doing actually, though, it's not dropping this down, it's actually pushing that up. And so by doing that, you continually get that extra distance. And this is really what your lift is right there. And keep in mind that we are under the trail. And so the other thing that I can show you too is if you can see this hanger, this is your exhaust hanger. So typically this hanger here that I'm poking on, that guy goes to the chassis. What they do is they add this extra bracket so that this guy here can actually drop down. So something that's massively different between the trail and the Q-Lift is that the Q-Lift leaves this system high and tight. Your exhaust is dropping and is not raising at all on the trail. So another way to explain it is it's at the same height that it was before it was lifted. And it's because they are putting these hangers to actually keep it where it was, because remember, the motor's not going anywhere either. And so that is kind of a significant difference. The other thing that I can show you here as I kind of scoot around down here is if you kind of take a look, you can kind of see basically how tight I am against the muffler. And so that kind of helps show you a little bit of the variation and the difference of where it drops to. Now, something else that has been a topic of discussion is the rear shock mounts. So this is your standard factory shock mount. On the van next to us that I'll show you, a standard shock mounts to this location. On the trails, you're not gaining any clearance. They just go up higher on the same bracket and leave this here. So, you know, a lot of times people do a relocation bracket where this whole thing is going and moving up. On the trail, they simply just go higher on the same bracket. And so, and then you can see at the back, this here is your lift block that actually gets you that lift for your rear axle. And so again, you know, we got 3 leafs on here, come standard with 2. This is something that we add on all of our units for load support and stability. So, but that's your rear lifting block. And then again, kind of just circling back here to the front before I go back to the other unit, is this here, which is we're at the front again. This here is what's actually, it's not dropping anything. Your clearance isn't changing. You're actually lifting everything and leaving the motor, all of your transfer and differentials, your exhaust, all these components are all staying at the same level as if I put these tires on a standard Transit. So, Austin, there you go, buddy. Hold on. All right. So, and I'll take you guys over. I'll just take it back. So, what I'll do is I'll take you guys over here and kind of show you guys real quick underneath this guy. So, well, actually, I'm going to show you down underneath. So, now we're under the Q-Lift. So we are under the Ford Transit with a Q-Lift added. So if we come back at the front, we've got, again, we got Bilsteins. You can see them up in there, Struts, and then Bilstein shocks in the rear to kind of show the comparison. But just like comparing the other side, you can see here that we have a spacer in here that's dropping the differential. So you can see it right there by my finger. You can see it here. And then you can also see the spacing here. So the difference is that the spacer is happening on the other side of this cradle point. So this guy is running up to support your front differential. We are dropping the differential. We're not dropping anything else because the spacer's happening not up here. Spacer's happening underneath all of your bracing for all of your other components like transmission, your motor, everything else. Also, if you compare it to the other unit, you've got this bracket actually against and tight against the chassis. So they did just drive this in here, but I am gonna be a level of probably not super smart, but I'm gonna show you. So you can kind of tell, if you look from here, you can tell how much more depth, I guess clearance that I have against this muffler. Because reminder, the muffler from ground clearance perspective, except for what the tires do on the trail, you don't gain any clearance here. And so this is staying with the chassis, not coming off the chassis, the height of the lift. And so, and then again, kind of like the other unit, we added an extra leaf here. And back here, you can see the factory mount. This is where your factory shocks mount. And then what Ford is doing is on the trail, they're just raising this point to go up higher, but they're leaving kind of this hanger here. So it's not really changing. You know, you still have obviously this clearance problem here, but you know, that there is not changing at all. And then, you know, same with the trail, you know, we do a block to basically get you that rear lift in your rear axle. And so, or I guess rear of the chassis. But, you know, that is your major differences. Again, I can try to show you, but the major guy is one of those right there. You know, that guy is what you're really seeing as a difference. I'll show you one more comparable. Austin, here you go, buddy. One last kind of comparable. This is, oh gosh, just take back. You. So you can also see with that extra leaf, you know, a lot of times once we build these units, these are both not built out. You're going to see a lot of this come out, and then you're going to see a little bit of a decent uphill to where the rear end is going to be about a ½ inch taller than the front. And these units, I will say, for both, they do have a great departure angle. The approach angles are different because of that front flashing. But something that is also a great kind of notice is you can see the difference here in where this exhaust comes out tight against the chassis. And then if we go over to the trail, see here, if you come over to the trail, you can see that additional difference to where that exhaust is coming down and staying down. I shouldn't say coming down. It's staying down and not going up with the vehicle when lifted. So maybe I can do this. So you can kind of see it there. And then you can see it over there. So there's kind of like your standard transit. There is your Q-Lift. Or sorry, your trail. So trail sitting here in front of us, and the Q-Lift is over there. So it's really giving a comparison of the two. It kind of helps give you guys kind of a look underneath and kind of seeing the difference. You know, again, I mean, these units are amazing. You know, both, I've driven both, been around both, you know, and it's just one of those things where it's, what are you really looking for? What are you looking for from Ford? Are you wanting something factory direct? You know, those are the type of things that really make the two variables different. You know, you have the option in the trail that gives you all the different looks included in what you're purchasing. You know, you can also go the route of the Q-Lift, and you can ask for the options like what you see behind me. And it really comes down to, what are you looking for? You know, what actually works for you better? You know, I think both options are great. I think there's a level where I think a lot of people, I think the trail is the best choice for you, you know, but I think also on the other hand, I think the standard T350 with a few variables can also be exactly what you're looking for. So definitely appreciate you guys checking it out. Please subscribe, please like, comment, and we'll try to keep up with it. Thanks, guys.